Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about how and what we had to do to install these fenders. It wasn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be. I'll pass that information on to you, and I apologize. We've moved on with the truck, kind of a glimpse there. We've got a lot more done, and I'm kind of behind with the videos. I haven't been filming a lot or recording a lot just because, well, it's not easy to get out here and get stuff done and do the video at the same time. And I'd really like to move this project out of the shop and get back to the car. So trying to truck along here. It'll be probably a short video on the fender, and then we'll get back to, I got a bunch of video on the crossover steering system, and we're gonna get, we got most of that done. Working on some stuff on the bench over here for our hydro boost for the braking system, and we'll try to get that together. It'll probably be this video, short video on fender fitment, and then another video shortly after that for the steering, the crossover steering, and this hydro boost problem that I'm working on. Quite a bit of stuff done in the engine compartment, air intake, all the piping, the charge piping and all is done and ready to go. Throttle, linkage, TV cable and all that's been done. All that I have to edit yet. So that's coming, and some interesting stuff, I think. But take a look at this video. All right, these fenders on these early model trucks are pretty easy to install. There's not a whole lot of hardware to hang them. I say install them. They're easy. Adjustment has been a little bit tricky, but the installation is done fairly easy with these two bolts here. There's a bolt that holds the bottom part of the panel on. It comes in from the inside there. And then on the front side over here, there's four smaller bolts. These are 5/16, 18s, I believe. Half-inch socket takes them off. So there's two going through the radiator support here, and then two going through this corner bracket. Both, or all four of them are 5/16, 18 bolts. All right, this issue, it popped up on both sides, the left and the right side. You can see on the left fender here, it's kind of pooched out here a good bit, about 3/16 of an inch or so. And like I said, it was the same on the right fender as well. And I had the fender on and off multiple times to try to solve this problem. And the only way I could figure out how to do it was to cut the inner structure of the fender, and then push the fender, cut the structure, put the fender back on the truck, push it to where it needs to go, and actually needs to be slightly under. It took me, 2 attempts on the right side because I originally pushed the fender back to be in flush. When I welded it, the weld shrinks, and then it pooched back out just slightly. Probably good enough, but I wasn't happy with it. So I hacked it again, and then was slightly under and re-welded it, and it came out nice. So I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to cut the inner structure, and then we'll be able to push the fender in slightly under and then re-weld it. All right, it didn't open up much. It doesn't take much apparently, but I'm going to put a tack right here on the corner, and then I'm going to take the time to put the fender back on the truck to see what it looks like. We'll give that tack a chance to cool down, and if it's in good shape, I'll spot weld it along here and finish this off. If it's not, it won't leave me much to take loose or to cut back loose to readjust it. All right, that's better, huh? nice and flush, nice and even. I mean, as much as you can get, as much as I'm willing to do on a 71. So very happy with that. Looks like the other side. I'll take my time stitching that back together, and I think the takeaway here is I resisted on these new panels from cutting, and you just cannot resist. You just got to get to them. I think the dies, they do a pretty good job on these dies, but they're not perfect. So hey, don't be afraid to get the whiz wheel out and the welder out and make adjustments when you need to. All right, guys. Hey, this is the next thing we need to install in our on our left fender. This is the left inner fender, and you can tell it's left by the letter L there in the part number, as well as this big notch that's cut into it or stamped into it for the steering box. The right side does not have that big notch in it. Hey, this thing's a monster. It's tough to wrestle in there, and it's hard to keep it from bumping into things and scratching a lot of paint. So wish me luck. I'm getting ready to wrestle this bear. The hardware that we're going to install it with is all new. I bought a hardware kit from LMC, and let's see, I put it down here on the floor here, the part number for safekeeping. Part number LMC 30-1116, and it came with, well, a lot of hardware. Hey, what's the deal with the flies in the fall? That's crazy. A bunch of clip-on nut plates. They're all clipped on the fender. They come up through these holes here, and there's let's see how many of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those, and I think they threw in a couple of spares. And let's see, and then this bolt arrangement here is a little bit of a strange deal. This CAD plated bolt, CAD plate washer goes through this hole here, square hole, into the frame, and I didn't really care much for covering up a square hole with a round washer. And to be honest with you, it's kind of offset on the other side, on the right hand side, offset enough where the washer, there's just a little corner that's not covering the hole. So I made a square one. These two holes go up through the inner fender well, and into the fender, into the inner part of the structure of the fender. And be honest with you, on the right hand side, they didn't line up so well. So I wound up marking the inner structure of the fender, pulling the fender back off, and drilling and welding in some new nut plates into the inner fender structure. And we'll see if we have to do that on this left side. If we do, I'll show you that process. These 3 holes take, again, just about this whole fender is held in with these 5/16 bolts, 5/16 18 bolts, and all part of the LMC kit here. Those 3 go up through those holes into the radiator support. Some nut plates welded in on the radiator support. So I'm going to get to wrestling this bear, and we'll take a look at it once I get it installed. Well, you're probably glad I didn't record all that, because there was certainly a lot of cussing involved. This one proved to be significantly more challenging than the right side, especially on these bolts here that go up through into the radiator support. This metal right here is under a lot of tension right now. I had to pull the holes over with a pick, probably a good ½ inch or so, maybe not quite that far, but I eventually got them in, got them started, and drew them down tight. This hole right here, the bolt I had to leave out. Once I got those 3 in, and this one lined up fairly well, and drew down tight. Now the ones around the edge of the, well, that's not, well, there's one. It's the lip of the fender here. Ones that go through and into the lip of the fender. That's what I started with, and they went in fairly easy. Everything lined up pretty good with that. Now on the other side, I marked where the inner fender sets up against the outer fender here. There's going to be some seam sealer that goes in here, but where it kind of gaped open between the bolts, I marked with my Sharpie, and when I pulled the inner fender back out, I just creased it over just slightly to take out some of that gap there, and it worked pretty well. So I'll do this side as well. Actually, this side doesn't look as gapped open. You can see a good spot here, right in here, right there. So we'll just kind of peen it over just a wee bit just to take up some of that gap. And then when we put it together, I'll have to look in the manual to see if they did it at the factory or not, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do it. I'll probably put some, oh, I don't know what kind of sealant in here, but something, maybe some butyrate tape, and then let it squeeze in there to keep the moisture out. So let's see. We talked earlier about these holes. I know you guys are probably getting sick from my wobbliness. Where the bolts go up through these holes into the inner fender structure, and on the right hand side, the right fender, they did not line up. They were over a hole off, and I had to mark them, drill them, and then weld new nuts in them, and that worked great. This side's a little bit better. Right here is almost lined up. I might be able to pull that one over. I'll wrestle with it here in a little bit, but I don't think, if I get this one in right here, I don't think it's ever going to get lined up. So again, I'll probably have to, Sharpie it and then reposition that hole, or reposition the nut. All right, so here's the square hole we talked about earlier, about how I made the square washer to cover up this square hole. So this is kind of a subframe that's on the front of the body, and the hole for it is right here. The other side, the right side, lined up. It was right about in this position. It wasn't dead center in this square hole, but it was close enough where I didn't really have to pull the inner fender around to get it to thread in there. But this one is slightly out. I mean, I can see the hole. It's probably 3/4 of a hole off. So I'll bend on this one a little bit, see if I can get it into shape. If I can't, I'm probably going to have to notch this out and use rely on my extra big square washer to cover up all that ugliness. And I think that's just pretty common with fitting these aftermarket parts. You just got to be willing to make it work. And there might be another factor into all this. This is the side that the frame was bent pretty bad and hammered pretty hard. And matter of fact, right here in the frame is where we wound up cutting it and straightening it back out. And if you watch the earlier video of us fixing the frame, it was out. So maybe we didn't get it perfect. It sure looked, we did it with strings and weights and plumb bobs and all that stuff. And I think it's straight, but may not be perfect. And this might be evidence of it, or maybe the aftermarket parts. I don't know, but we'll get around it. So I'm going to get this thing, I'm going to try to work on this one a little bit more and check the ones up here and mark what I need to mark, and then I'm going to have to pull it back out. Fun stuff. Hey guys, one more note here, one more correction, I guess. Let me back up a little bit. Hey, this is getting exciting. Look at all these new parts on this truck, and it's starting to look like a truck again. That is very cool, and I'm super excited about all of it. But back to the correction, I told you earlier when this inner fender was sitting over on the stand that cutout was for the steering box, and that was a big fat lie, because there's the steering box. So that notch in that inner fender is for the steering box. This notch is for, I don't know, I can't remember. All right, well, this is probably obvious to some of you guys that were watching, and you knew what this notch was for, and you were probably screaming at the screen. And hey, I figured it out. It's for the input shaft to the steering box. Well, look at that. I got it in there. Didn't have to elongate the hole, just twisted real hard, a lot of tension on the whole inner fender. And once I got that one snugged up, the ones overhead here lined up. That one first, and then just a smidget of a twist to get that one to line up. So all the hardware is in. Like I said, no elongating of the holes. Just a lot of twisting and pulling and cussing to get it to go in there. So very happy with that. I'm gonna let it sit maybe even overnight to hopefully kind of take that shape, and hopefully it won't be quite as much of a bear next time I have to put it in. All right, that's it for the fenders. The fenders are installed. Still got a little bit of trim work to do. This is more door panel stuff or door skin stuff. Just getting the gaps a little bit closer to the way we want them. Shimming wise, these two bolts here, wind up putting these little horseshoe shims underneath them to get the spacing right here between the door skin and the fender. A few shims there, and actually some on the bottom to get the fit right here between the rocker and the fender as well. So all that's done. They're fitting really well. We've had the hood on it, and the gaps look pretty good. Maybe a little bit more adjustment. The front part of the fender is, you can move it in and out to get the gap right, and we'll get a little fine tuning to do there, but I think it's in pretty good shape. All right, so that's it for the fender. We've got a lot more done, as you can tell, and we got more videos coming out. We appreciate your patience, and hey, get out in your shop, get something done, and we'll talk to you next time.